Or is this full-time MMA now?
I love full-time MMA right now.
Full-time MMA?
MMA,
Nothing
yeah.
else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full-time
MMA.
And it is reported that Brock Lesnar will be in attendance for UFC 226, and that means he's looking at a potential title fight if he does come back to the UFC and the John Jones fight isn't available. But at UFC 226, it is going to be headlined by Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier in a champion versus champion super fight. Winner of that fight becomes heavyweight champion if it's DC, who's already the light heavyweight champion. But if Stipe Miocic wins that fight, he defends his belt and becomes the greatest heavyweight of all time. He's already beat Alistair Overeem, Fabricio Verdum. He won the belt, defended the belt 3 times, which is the most times in heavyweight history in the UFC. He holds that record. And now if he's able to beat Daniel Cormier was 13-0 at heavyweight, never lost, moved down to light heavyweight, and the only person that was ever able to beat DC down there even was John Jones, and he popped dirty. So Daniel Cormier is a bad motherfucker. This is going to be a crazy fight. If DC wins, he remains undefeated at heavyweight, becomes the light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, and he's one of the greatest fighters, if not the greatest fighter of all time. And this still opens up a potential matchup with Brock Lesnar, because we're talking about heavyweights here. Now, when you talk about Brock Lesnar versus any of the greatest heavyweights of all time, it's Brock Lesnar versus any of the greatest fighters, whether it's John Jones or just the best heavyweights. It's always a what's going to happen, because Brock Lesnar's so big, right? He's got the size and the wrestling credentials to where if you can't knock him out or take advantage of his skill set, him not being as experienced in combat sports, then he'll be able to potentially smother you and win the fight via TKO or decision, so Brock Lesnar is always a potential huge fight for any heavyweight. He's a big money fight. Well, we would think so. Who knows what's going to happen after UFC 225. CM Punk didn't sell too well, so it'll be interesting to see how well Brock Lesnar does in his return. But there's, Brock Lesnar traditionally has sold very well, and that means he's going to be a big draw. A lot of fans would be watching this potential fight. And if he's going to be in attendance at UFC 226, it looks like he's got his eye on that main event between Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. Now, there's been talk of Brock Lesnar facing John Jones potentially in his return to the UFC, because he doesn't have long left on his WWE contract. I believe it's just about a year, or maybe even under a year. And Dana White has talked about John Jones coming back and said he's still very interested in the John Jones fight, and John Jones is also still very interested in the Brock Lesnar fight. But there's a lot of hurdles they would have to jump through in order for a Brock Lesnar versus John Jones fight. Both fighters have to be cleared by USADA. Then John Jones has to make the move up to heavyweight. It wouldn't even be for a belt, so it'd still be a fun fight and a big fight. But, there's a lot of hurdles to jump through before we get to John Jones versus Brock Lesnar. Now, Brock Lesnar versus the winner of this fight at UFC 226, now we could be talking, but we'd have to talk about that another day. We'll see what happens at UFC 226. But as of right now, all we know is Brock Lesnar will be in attendance, and that can only mean one thing. He's watching that main event. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. Brock Lesnar could be looking at a potential UFC heavyweight title shot. You think he deserves one after that Mark Hunt fight in the suspension? A title shot? You think he's big enough of a star, or do you think he should have to get in line? Interesting. I'm out. And as always, thanks for checking out this video. If you're new, or if you're just slipper slacking on your pimping, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. And if you want to help support this independent channel, you can either click the PayPal button in the description, or you can go to patreon.com/fulltimemma and consider becoming a patron. I'm out.
This is #1 bullshit.